Reptile Nation, what's up? This is Ozzy from Ozzy Boyd's. I just want to do a quick video. This is a quick tip on how to prevent mites from entering your collection. So, whenever I get a new snake, whenever I buy a new snake from someone, or receive a new snake, or I bring a snake back from a show, um, this is how I treat the animal to make sure that it doesn't have mites um, that may enter into my collection and spread throughout my collection. Now, you guys know I use cypress mulch bedding, so if you do get a mite outbreak in your collection, it's very, very time consuming and difficult to get rid of those mites. You pretty much have to throw out all of your bedding. You have to put all your animals on newspaper or newsprint or paper towels. You have to spray all your animals down. We use a Nix solution. You would have to spray everything down, clean out all your cages, dump all your bedding, and keep everything on newspaper for at least 2 weeks to get rid of the mites. That's a pretty, when you have a big collection like mine, that would be a pretty time-consuming, stressful, very wasteful situation. So this is how you prevent mites from ever getting into your collection. And I've been using this method for the past 21 years, and it works pretty good. So all you need is Prevenamite or some other mite preventative. I've been using Prevenamite, and I highly recommend it. It works really, really good. You also need some dish soap, just some regular dish soap. Then you need a container and a little bit of water. So what I do is I fill up the container with room temp water, and you don't want to put too much water in there. You don't want to drown the snake. This is a new hatchling, so I'm going to add a little bit more water. You want the water to reach up about halfway. So what I do when a snake first comes in, I set them up in a clean container with room temp water, and I just close the lid. And then I leave this snake in here for about 20 minutes. And the reason why we do that is the snake may take a drink of water. So we leave him in there for 20 minutes. And while those animals are, while the snake is soaking in the water, we then prep the tub. So this would be the new tub for the snake. Take a little Prevenamite. We use newsprint. You could purchase this newsprint from Uline. We purchase ours from uline.com. It's basically, it's newspaper without the ink. Spray the container good with the Prevenamite. Try not to breathe in the fumes, Brian. And then you let that sit, and you let it air dry while the snake is soaking. You don't want to spray and then put the snake directly on a Prevenamite treated newspaper. You want to allow it to dry, and you don't want to put a water bowl in there until it's completely dry. So while that container is drying, we wait for 20 minutes. We'll then come and we'll add a couple drops of dish soap to the container. You don't need a lot. You just need enough to get the water a little soapy. We put the lid back on. And then we just stir it around a little bit with the snake in there and make sure the water is completely covering the snake. So now what that does is the water will drown the mites. Any mites that are on the surface of the snake, and like newborn mites are really, really tiny and hard to see with the naked eye. You won't really notice the mites until they engorge themselves with blood and they swell up kind of like a tick. At that point, they're probably breeding and laying eggs, so by the time you notice them, it's too late. So whether we see mites or not, whether we get the snake from our best friend or from our mother's house or whatever, every snake that comes into my collection goes through this process. So the water will drown the mites, but sometimes mites can crawl up under the scale and they'll hide in an air pocket, or a little air bubble, or in the heat pits, or other parts of the snake. Now this is more of a problem with snakes like retics that have larger scales than ball pythons. Not so much a problem with ball pythons, but it can happen, especially with a bigger ball python. So the mite will crawl up under the scale or hide in an air bubble and survive and won't drown. And that's why we use the soap, because the soapy water will reduce the surface tension and burst those air pockets and those air bubbles and drown any remaining mites. So after we add soap, we'll leave the snake in the water for another 10 minutes. Make sure and swirl it around so that the snake is covered in water, soapy water, and then we'll just let them sit in there for a few minutes. And then after the 10 minutes is up, then we'll set them up. At that point, their container should be dry, and you can see that the paper's been treated. Paper looks wet almost. So as this paper dries, we'll set the animal up. We'll give them fresh water, and we'll leave them on the treated newspaper for 2 weeks. And we'll usually set up a couple of extra tubs too that have been treated with prevenamite, just in case they poop and you have to clean the tub. You have another prevenamite treated tub to swap them out with. I recommend that you do this in a completely separate room away from your reptile room, because any mites that get out could potentially crawl to another cage and infect some of your snakes. Another thing we do too is the shipping box, the snake bag that comes in with the new snake. We keep it up in our garage and we'll spray it down with prevenamite just to make sure that any mites on the packaging are also killed off. So the good thing about the prevenamite treated newspaper is it will desiccate, it will kill any living mites, but it'll also help desiccate any existing eggs. So if there are eggs on the snake, the prevenamite over time will dry them out. And mites have a 14-day life cycle. So they will lay eggs, and in I think it's like 10 days or so the eggs will hatch. So it's a 14-day cycle. So if you keep them on treated paper for 14 days, you'll prevent any existing mites or eggs from hatching and reproducing. So 2 weeks is an adequate time frame. If you want to be extra safe, you can go a third week, but typically I just go 14 days and then I bring the animals into my collection. If you guys follow this process, I can guarantee you that you won't ever have a mite problem with a new snake coming into your collection. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this will prevent some of you guys from getting mites. It's not a fun experience, and it's pretty difficult to get rid of them. And the next video we do, we'll show you how to get rid of a mite outbreak in your collection.